opted out of the season. What was your reaction to that, and have there been any other opt-outs that you know of?
Well, first of all, we've already talked about all that stuff with the team. We had a huge team meeting the other day in a social distancing situation where we get an opportunity to get together. We've had very few of those since June 8th, but all the guys they understand that they have the option to do that. That comes way above my pay grade. That's from the athletic director, the chancellor, not only the ACC, but the NCAA as well. So they understand they have those options, and to exercise those options is nothing more than the American way. So our feeling is they exercised his option, and then, we're going to move on from there. But we wish him the best, and we understand.
And is he the only one on the team who's opted out?
He is the only one that I'm going to talk about right now. There's some people that are pending, but right now he's the only one I'm going to talk about.
And next question, Nico.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Nico?
I'm doing all right. It's it almost becomes the cliche question on the first day of camp, how was it out there and everything like that. But obviously this year is so different on so many levels. How different was it? But also at the same time, how exciting was it to get out there, even if there were those extra precautions that you have to do these days?
Now, let me start with this, Nico. We moved practice to 4:15, so we actually haven't been out on the practice field yet. But we have had some walkthroughs, and the energy moving up to this week has been outstanding. I think that both the new coordinators are doing a really good job of getting their information across to their young men. The biggest thing is going to be obviously the lack of spring ball, where they had the opportunity to practice the basic fundamentals and the techniques of the things that they need to do. So starting today, we'll be in helmets for 2 days and shoulder pads for 2 days, and then we'll have an opportunity to put the gear on. And, we'll start down that road with the fundamentals. But the energy level is really high with the guys, and we're kind of tired of doing all the other stuff and want to get back to stuff that we know how to do, which is football.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Mark Larson from Spectrum.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, I wanted to follow up on the first question and your comment that there are some that are pending. What does that mean? And I guess what's your message to not only your players but your coaches as far as taking the risks that are involved in doing this, and that it's okay to opt out?
Well, first of all, the pending is just young men thinking about it. I think the thing that's really different in our program than a lot of other programs is that we really talk about a lot of stuff. And I feel fortunate that our guys have enough faith that they can come up and talk about anything and understand that it's not going to be held against them in the long run. So we had guys that have mentioned it, guys that have talked about it. They're going to talk things over with their parents, and they're still pondering some situations. When it comes to the coaches are in the exact same situation. Now, they understand they could do that, but they also understand the stress that they're going to be putting us in. And with something like that, the NC2A has passed a rule where you can hire other coaches and move them up immediately to become full-time coaches, to take coaches' places that either do something to that effect, or maybe they catch the virus because of their age, or that you have the option of making somebody a full-time coach right away. So they've given us some things to do that traditionally we don't have the ability to do this year because of the pandemic and it being 2020.
And I want to follow up by asking you, when you see what's happening with Major League Baseball and how confident are you as you start practice today that there is going to be a season, that you guys are going to play games this year, that this can happen?
Well, I think that it all comes down to that magic word of faith. I have faith that our guys can pull it off. I've seen what's been going on around the country, and we just finished our 1,200th test. We've tested 1,200 times.
Wow.
And I know I'm not allowed to tell you what the number is, but I'm telling you right now that if they were giving a number, basing the national championship Final Four off of COVID testing and who had the lowest number, I really believe we'd be in the Final Four. I really do. It's an amazing number, and it's based off of what these young people have done and our support group have done. We did a lot of homework before we went into this thing. We talked to a lot of guys at Fort Drum, the military and stuff like that, along with the leaders that we have here on campus on exactly how to do this. And we've stubbed our toes. Sure, we have once or twice, but I'll tell you, for the most part, it's gone down exactly the way they said it would. And I'm really happy with the testing results, and we'll continue to test weekly to make sure that our guys are in good standing. And when you look around the country, you just hope that everybody else catches up to the standard that we've set up here at Syracuse.
Thanks, Dino. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Rich Donnelly from Rochester.
Hi, Coach. Thank you very much for taking the time and speaking with us today. Kind of piggybacking off your last answer, I'm curious, how proud are you of knowing the way that your team has handled these various protocols in a responsible manner in order to be able to be out on the practice field and have as many people as possible participate?
I was commending them yesterday in the team meeting. Out of 12 topics, it was number 8. Not that I didn't start with it, because I had to welcome in some new guys that had never stood up in front of the team before and introduced themselves. But they've done an amazing job. They really have. And, you know, you guys may not know, but I've been blessed to know the real numbers of what's going on around the country. And I mean, we take a back seat to no one based on how we've done it, how we've done our business up here. But now the bottom line is you got to start mixing, you know, offense, defense, and you got to start working with playing some other teams. And, you know, all that stuff is going to come out in the wash. But rolling into it, based off of what this team's done, I'm really proud of them.
And then as it relates to football, we've gone 5 months with almost exclusive virus talk. When you get the team out there and there's a football on the field, does it just help you mentally a little bit knowing that, okay, football is happening now? You
know, yeah. I mean, it's good to see the football. I think I've got the cleanest hands I've ever had since I've been on the planet. There's no doubt about it. And guys are doing everything that we're asking them to do. I've never known my body temperature this many days in a row in my entire life. And if you come in from an air-conditioned car and you're going to use the gun, I'm going to hit somewhere right around 96.3 traditionally, almost to the mark, which is really low, which freaked me out at first. But they're saying it's okay because you're coming out of air conditioning. And I've never shot over 97.1, even though every time I get close to somebody in the community and they don't have a mask on, I feel like my body temperature is going up. Like right there, I just caught it. And I'm about to overheat like a car on the side of the road. But it's just my imagination going off once again. So, you know, these guys have done a fantastic job. We really believe that we have the right protocol. And it's going to be fun to see footballs flying around again. And then we'll see. You know, we may go all the way through this season. We may not. It may be because of us, maybe because of somebody else. But we're ready to do our part. We're ready to put our hand on the line, drop our body weight, bend our knees, and compete and see if we can get this thing done.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Corey Spector, WAER.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, Corey, you don't seem like you're too excited. Are you excited?
I'm pumped, man. We got 11 games on the schedule, ready to rock and roll, man.
Ooh, I like it. God dang, I like that rock and roll part too. Go ahead, Corey.
I'm curious, Coach, and you alluded to the success that your program has had as opposed to other universities with breakouts. Just how strong your messaging has been with your staff to your players. Are players allowed to go out and eat at restaurants? Are they allowed to do social activities? How much have you really been cutting down on those sorts of activities in order to stay healthy as possible?
Well, they understand that the more social activities they do, the more danger they put themselves in, which means the more danger they're putting their teammates in, which is the more danger we're putting the team in. I mean, the season in. So they understand that the main thing is if they want to go out and go about, but go about in your pod. Travel with your guys, travel with the people in your group, and because at least you know that those people are getting tested weekly. And for the most part, you know, they should be safe. So that's the big thing. Who do you travel with? Make sure you avoid all the huge parties. There's no sense in going to a COVID party. University of Washington, there's no sense in doing that. You know, some other universities I'm not going to throw out there. You know, be smart and use some common sense and we'll take care of the rest, or you should be able to take care of the rest.
I'm curious, Coach, in terms of positions, and I know you're going to tell me that you treat every player the same. Have there been discussions about isolating certain players during the season, during practice? For example, Tommy, maybe having him not participate in some sort of practice or some part of practice just to keep him healthy?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open a can with you. No, we haven't talked about it at practice, but we've gone to a difference. I mean, I haven't talked to the players about it, but I've actually thought about, who do you want so-and-so to room with on the road? Who do you want so-and-so to hang out with? Because those things are important. Who are you going to let inside of certain players' bubbles as far as roommates? They may not have the traditional roommates they've always had. And then the things that you do at night are going to affect the things that we do during the day. If you're having a clean slate at night and you're not getting into mischief, then, you can keep that guy. Tommy DeVito can be your roommate. If you're doing some things that maybe aren't right, maybe Tommy DeVito's not the roommate that you should have this year. So, I mean, I've had some thoughts into that stuff, but not the first thing that you talked about.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Darius Joshua from News Channel 9. Darius?
How you doing, Coach? Good to see you, even through a screen at the very least.
Darius, I've been watching you. I've been watching you through the doggone pandemic. I've been watching some of those outfits you wear now. You got some clothes.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Coach. I'm just trying to dress to impress, as they say.
Well, you're dressed to impress, and there's no doubt.
Thank you again. You talked about kind of as you start to get closer to the actual season, there's offense, defense, and practice. There's actually other teams you're playing. How much input do you have with the powers that be it is at the university in terms of stepping up the testing protocols as the season goes on? We know right now that it's Wednesday, at least 3 days prior to competition. You're trying to push for Thursday, Friday, or even other methods of trying to make sure that you stay safe as a coach and then players stay safe as players.
Darius, fantastic question. I can't share with you everything. I think our protocol is good. Could it be more? I think it could be more. But it gets into a lot of other things. You want to make sure that everyone else is testing just as much as you're testing. So, it's something that we have to continue to talk about among ourselves and other groups of head coaches and stuff like that. But if you're asking me whether it's good enough, it's more than good enough. I know that the CDC, when a guy tests positive, they say you only have to stay in quarantine 10 days, where our guys have stayed in quarantine 14 days because we wanted to go over and above the limit to make sure that our guys are okay. And all our guys have come back and they've been fantastic. Now, that being said, whether it's 14 days or 10 days in the season may be the difference between a second test or a third test to make sure everything's okay. But that's all stuff that we've got to settle down with. And I think there's another decision coming, I think August 14th, that the ACC is going to make on something that the NC2A threw out there. And I think right around August 14th, 15th, 16th, a lot of this stuff is going to settle down in the protocol.
And then as a
hey, wait a minute, I know this is a good one because Steven went down on his notes like he didn't know what I just talked about. So I think I just scooped Steven. I don't think he knew about that. I think he went straight to the NC2A website. Go ahead, Darius. I'm sorry.
As a follow-up to that, the actual schedule is out. What is your reaction to the way the schedule laid out and the teams that are out there for you to play?
Darius, you're going to make me smile big time. Watch this. I knew who we were going to play. I didn't know. I knew who we were going to play. I didn't know when we were going to play them until basically 45 minutes ago. That's how busy I've been. This is true story. So I get the schedule. I shoot home to change my clothes for this. And then my daughter is telling me about my schedule and how it should go. I'm like, really? Okay, now that you got your master's degree from Syracuse, you're gonna tell me about whether it's a schedule laid out well or not well. But it's interesting. It really is for us to be able to open up with North Carolina. Probably, I don't know, so a lot of people would say this second best quarterback in the league maybe, and then you go to Pitt, who may have the best defense in the league. And, I think it's very interesting. It makes me think of Jericho and circling a village and blowing the horn 7 times. We're going to need a lot of things on our side, but I feel like we're going to have an opportunity to put our hands on the line and see what we can do. So it'll be interesting.
Thank you.
That was biblical references, Darius. You can.
I picked them up.
Okay.
Next, we'll go to Brad Klein. Brad?
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hello, Brad.
Just going off of that, it's a pretty tough draw in terms of getting not only Clemson, but also Notre Dame. A lot of teams in the ACC only have to play one of those teams. What was your reaction? I guess this is going back a couple of days now when you saw that you have to play probably the top two teams in the conference.
Well, I think that it gives us the opportunity to really find out exactly where we're at. You know, we're an extremely young team, and we're gonna come out and play those guys, and you know, we'll see. It'll be fun.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll go to Dan Tortora. Dan, go ahead.
Morning, Coach. How are you? Or afternoon, I should say.
Good afternoon, Dan.
To take a look at something that's outside of football, but is obviously affecting your players, affecting the community. Just what you can say about, you know, seeing social injustice and how you maybe address the team and address, you know, what's going on and how you want to move forward as a leader of this team.
Well, we talked about, we also brought that up in the team meeting, the things that we're still going to do when it comes to voting and registering voters, and the things that we're going to help out in the community as far as getting people to the polls. And the team is still coordinating all that stuff with Salatha Willis, who's going to be the leader of that diversity group on campus for us. But we talked about that a little bit. We're still highly interested, and we're motivated to make sure we do our part when it comes to that stuff. And when it comes to other things, I think it's the kids are very, very active. You look on the internet, they're voicing their opinions, which they're allowed to do. And we're looking for some closure is what I'm looking for. I think we've had enough visuals, and we've had protests, which are fantastic. Everybody has the right to do that. And, you know, thank God you live in America where you can do that. But I'm looking for some closures on some of these issues and some of the things that started all this stuff. And then hopefully it's coming down the road very soon.
And then as far as on the football side of things, what can you say about Notre Dame joining the family, at least temporarily, in the ACC?
You know, I was at Purdue University in the 90s. We played Notre Dame every year, kind of like the way we play Clemson. And didn't have a lot of luck when I was there. I think it's very unique to play those guys. And I think it's very, very special to play them on the road, to have an opportunity to go to that stadium. And everybody talks about touchdown Jesus, and it's no big deal. But when you go and you see him, you go, whoa, you know, and he's staring at you during the entire game. One of the thrills of being a college football player is going and playing in some of the fantastic venues that when your playing career is over and you're sitting back and you're married, you got kids, you got grandkids, and those venues pop on TV that there's something in your stomach that you go, hey, I played there. Or you can tell your grandkids, I've been there, I've been on that field. And I think that's special. And I think it's for our young men to have the opportunity to go play Notre Dame at Notre Dame, I think is really, really special. Just like I think it's very special for Notre Dame to have the opportunity to play us someday. I guess we call it the Dome now, right? Is that the correct word?
The Dome, yes. I think so.
Okay, in the Dome. All right, I'll end at that statement.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Stay safe.
Next, we'll go to Nate Mink, Syracuse.com.
Dino, first, I hope the big Babers family out west and down in Texas are doing well, and your own family.
They've been on marches, they've been on protests, and they're all good. They're all taking care of each other out there.
Glad to hear. I wanted to ask you a little bit of the challenges you're probably confronted with roster management, you know, particularly if, you know, you get exposed to the 14-day quarantine and some of the contact tracing protocols that are in place. Just how are you going to approach getting enough guys ready that if you do get certain guys have to sit out week in and week out, that you're going to have, you know, an adequate number of guys who know what they're doing out there and are ready to play?
Well, the last part I don't know about. You can roll the dice on the last three things that you just said. But what we're going to do is, we'll try to build some position flexibility, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult not only for us, but every other team that we play. If you get hit in the wrong position or the wrong two positions with two or three positives and social tracing, it can be devastating. And then you're going to put something on the field where you may have, 8 varsity guys and 3 junior varsity guys, not to put anyone down. And I think it's the job of the coaches to identify the junior varsity guys. And even though a game plan might have been geared one way, you better have the flexibility to change that game plan, because you probably won't know who those guys are before the game starts. You're going to just notice that so-and-so's not out there or so-and-so's not out there. You better find out if they're in the bathroom and they're going to come out late, or they're really missing the doggone game. And then you're going to have to adjust and improvise. It's going to be a different year than ever before. And I think the creativity of coaches and the flexibility of rosters, along with staying healthy, is going to be the key. And you can be extremely healthy one week, and then you can have a physical injury, or you could have a medical COVID injury that affects your team the exact same way. So it's going to be difficult. We're going to have to keep an open mind, our knees bent, and be open and welcome to change.
If you do get hit at one of those positions really badly, where you just don't feel good about the product you're left with, would you go to your boss and say, hey, I don't think we can play this week?
I haven't even thought of that, Nate. I mean, I don't mean that. I'm sitting here going, wow. To say that you just can't play. Never even thought about that. Where there's a will, there's an A, I guess. And if you play, you have a chance. And if you don't play, you have no chance. I'd imagine if they're going to give you an opportunity to redo the game, that might be a thought. But there's not even a guarantee that they'll redo the game. There's no guarantee that the game would be a no contest or the game would be a forfeit. And the one thing that you got to remember too is you got seniors that are playing their senior year, and they're also, although they're playing for the S in the front, they're also their senior year. They also got some things that they want to do on the back of that jersey that may help them, down the road. And then maybe what about the guys that have no opportunity to play in the National Football League, and their senior season is 10 or 11 games, and then you're going to take 1 or 2 games away from them, saying that they had no chance of winning just because maybe, somebody doesn't want to get embarrassed, or somebody's going to have too many losses on their record. I really don't see it that way. It would have to be, for that to happen, probably would have to be people above me telling me that we can't go. Yeah, I find it very difficult for me to walk in front of my guys and say that we can't try something. I'll give you an example. I remember Baylor lost a bunch of their quarterbacks. I think it was in a championship game or something. And then they went to play North Carolina in a bowl game. And they had 1 running back and 2 wide receivers. And I think I got this story right. And I'm just making the number up, out of 80 plays on offense, I think they ran the ball like 76 times. And the only guys that carried the ball was the 2 wide receivers and the running backs, which had never been done before. And like, who would have thought of something like that? And how can you win without having a starting quarterback? You need to check the score of that game.
I think they won.
I think
they ran for like 500 yards or something like that too. I know.
I think you're right again, but you can check the numbers. I don't want to get Steven mad at.
If I can squeeze one more in, because you referenced the August 14th date that's coming up. That's, I think, when the divisions are going to make decisions on retaining eligibility for any guys that opt out. What do you have thoughts on that? On if guys should be able to retain a year of eligibility if they had already used a red shirt, and obviously what your thoughts would be then on changing the 85 scholarship limit that would probably go hand in hand with that.
My NC2A thoughts. Here are my NC2A thoughts. First of all, I can't tell you how many transfers we've had from different schools that don't get cleared and have to sit a year. And then how many transfers I see go to schools that we play who I think definitely have to sit a year. And not only do they become eligible, but they become eligible in July, June, May, April, and March. So I don't think you want me to be talking about or telling the NC2A what my suggestions are. So I'll stay mum on that one and just leave it at that.
I think you answered another question there in your own way too, but
Thank
I don't
you,
need
sir.
All right, we're just about out of time, Coach. So Anthony from the Daily Orange will have the last word. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hello, Anthony.
You mentioned coaches being creative and finding new ways to make things different this season. With 2 new coordinators, how hard is it to find that continuity early, and what are you expecting from the offense and the defense, given the limitations that you're going to have in training camp in the preseason camp?
You know, here's my expectations is this right here. Something's going to happen on September 12th. It could be really, really good. It could be really, really bad on one or both sides of offense and defense. What I expect after the 12th is I expect them to get better. I expect them to get better in a hurry. And if we continue to get better, we're not going to have to worry about the other stuff. We're very young, which is not an excuse. It's a fact, okay? We should get better. As these guys get going and as the coordinators get going, somewhere between 4 and 6, we should be getting better. And it should really kind of show us how this thing could end up and how we should run the end of the schedule, so to speak. But I think the key thing, especially with spring training being gone, you're going to go in the first 2 or 3 games and you may not be playing the right guy because there was no spring training. And then based off of 2 days, how much can you really bang if your numbers aren't right, or you get a social tracing situation in August? You don't have certain guys out there. So when you really start playing football in September, you may start somebody September 12th that may not be the starter October 10th. But if everybody continues to get better and we're still evaluating, somewhere after that 4 through 6 thing, we should start to settle in and we should start to see something that, that we should be proud of. And hopefully that's happening not only on offense and defense, but special teams as well. Answered your question?
Do you think you're at a disadvantage because you're replacing 2 coordinators as opposed to a team that, say, doesn't have as much turnover at those spots?
The answer is yes. Okay. But I also think there's an advantage too, because they haven't seen the coordinators call plays, right? They don't know what we're adding on offense. They don't know what we're adding on defense. And for the first couple of teams until they get all that stuff on tape, it's going to be different. And they've got to break down a lot of tape. And hopefully they got to hope that they're zeroing in on the right stuff, or they can make a lot of game adjustments once they figure out what we're going to do.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Anthony.
All right, Coach. That's all we have for you today. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Wish I could see you guys at practice. I'm going to miss some of you cats. I'll miss most of you guys. See you guys.
Coach.